Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is back in Washington today, stepping once again into the Oval Office to meet Donald Trump. It comes just 3 days after Trump hosted Vladimir Putin in Alaska and just 6 months after Zelenskyy's last meeting with the US President ended in public acrimony. That February encounter was extraordinary, carried live on television as Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance berated Zelenskyy, accusing him of being ungrateful for American aid and demanding that he negotiate with Russia. The exchange collapsed into shouting, with Trump telling Zelenskyy, quote-unquote, "You don't have the cards right now," before cutting him off and ending the talks. Days later, the US briefly suspended military assistance to Kyiv, shaking European confidence and leaving Ukraine in a precarious position. The shadow of the confrontation still lingers, but a lot has changed since then. In recent months, Trump and Zelenskyy have quietly repaired their channel with meetings at the Vatican, a mineral deal in April that gave the US a financial stake in Ukraine, and even a phone call Zelenskyy described as quote-unquote their best conversation yet. But the real complicating factor this time is Putin. Trump's meeting with the Russian leader in Alaska last week was their first since the war began in 2022. It ended without a ceasefire, but the optics was striking: warm greetings, talk of quote-unquote a fantastic relationship, and Trump shifting his demand from a temporary ceasefire to a final peace deal. On social media, he laid down two red lines. Crimea would not return to Ukraine, and NATO membership for Kyiv was off the table. That is the backdrop for today's meeting. Zelenskyy is under pressure from Moscow, from Trump, and even from European allies who fear Washington might try to impose a deal that locks in Russia's gains. For Kyiv, conceding territory like Crimea and Donbas is impossible under Ukraine's constitution. Zelenskyy insists that only Russia can end the war it started, and that peace must be based on sovereignty, not capitulation. So what can we expect? Trump and Zelenskyy will first meet one-on-one before being joined by a rare assembly of European leaders from Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Finland, and the EU, all converging on Washington in a show of unity. Their goal is to prevent a repeat of February's blow-up and to stand by Zelenskyy as Trump outlines what he calls a quote-unquote peace agreement. China has also weighed in, urging all parties in Washington to reach a binding settlement. Meanwhile, Russia keeps up its bombardment. Ukraine's foreign minister accused Moscow of killing civilians in Kharkiv, even as peace talks loom. Zelenskyy has walked this tightrope before. In 2019, his first Oval Office meeting with Trump became the seed of Trump's impeachment over a phone call where military aid was linked to political favors. In 2025, the stakes are even higher, not impeachment, but the future of his country. That's it for today's video. If you have any suggestions or feedback, write to us at videos@thehindu.co.in. Thanks for watching.